One of the first stages of any life coaching or skill developing relationship is building and fostering trust. Trust is the foundation of all relationships. It's the foundation of all friendships. It's the foundation of all business partnerships. It's the foundation of all life coaching relationships. It's the foundation of all mentoring relationships. It's the foundation of all parent-child relationships. Without trust, there isn't much. And in order to be able to trust a person, you need to know where a person's coming from, don't you? You need to understand a person's way of thinking. You need to understand a person's perspective. You need to understand why they are saying and doing the things that they're saying or doing. Otherwise, we can end up sometimes misjudging people. So trust is important in all walks of life and in all relationships. And it's also true between us right now. Because if you're going to take some of what I'm about to share with you seriously, you kind of need to understand where I've come from. Going back around about 17 years ago, I'd gone through this major transition in my life. Believe it or not, my background was not academia. I've not been a teacher for my whole life. I've been teaching for around about 12 years or so now. My background was actually in the military. I joined the army at the age of 16 years old, and I left around about the age of 25, 26, having travelled the world and done a whole load of stuff that I later went on to regret. Right? I did not live an honourable or a respectable life. All right? I did not live a virtuous life. I did not live a life of integrity. In fact, I hadn't even thought about it until around about the age of 29 to 30. So when I left the military at the age of 25 to 26, I generally knew I wanted a change in my life, but I didn't know what I wanted that change to be. I just wanted a change to happen. I wanted that greener grass on the other side of the fence. So I kind of left the military and I went off on this life transition, and I fell into a hole. And when I fell into my hole, I spoke to talking therapists and I spoke to doctors who diagnosed me, and doctors told me that I had illnesses, and talking therapists who asked me to talk about my emotions, and I even spoke to vicars and didn't find any solutions in any of these things. So what qualifies me? The school of hard knocks. All right, there's a pretty good chance that you can also relate to being educated through this school of hard knocks, which I want to propose is the greatest education that you can have as a life coach. Yes, it's good to have academic understanding. Yeah, it's good to have some certificates behind you. It's good to have methodologies and frameworks, but your life experience is what will serve you the most. So I've been there, all right? I've got the t-shirt, I've made a mess of my life, and I've come back from it, and I've built a reputable business, and I've built a healthy marriage, and I've set up a beautiful home, and I'm about to start a family, all right, which is lovely. But see, going back 15 years ago, I had none of those things. I had no hope for a better future because they weren't my immediate circumstances. And this is the problem that many people face. Many people look at the circumstances of their life today and wrongly assume that their circumstances today are equating or do equate to what their outcomes of tomorrow are going to be. All right, we get sometimes blindsided by what we have today or what we don't have today, and can't see anything other than having what we have today again tomorrow. Right, which is why so many people become so disenfranchised and so disheartened and so demotivated in life. All right. So this is one of the initial problems that we kind of need to work with people to overcome. I'm going to relate to the people that you invest your time into as coaches, not as clients. Now, I know there are some life coaching training organizations out there that refer to the people they work with as clients. I want to take more of a relational approach in this training course, call them coaches, and really impress the importance of the relationship first. Right, I'm kind of a relational kind of guy. What I found all these years ago was that it wasn't a methodology or a process or some strategy or some life coaching skills that helped me get my life back on track. It was the relationship that I had with a really mature role model of a man who simply inspired me to want more for my life. All right, it was only once I was able to see the way in which this man was living his life that I became inspired to ask questions. So how have you got that result? How did you, trust began to grow and develop? which is the first stage of a life coaching relationship. You've got to have a look at what you have. You've got to have a look at what you don't have. You've got to have a look at who you are. You've got to have a look at how you define yourself. You've got to have a look at how you conduct yourself in public. What are your ideologies? What's your worldview? How attractive is your life? First and foremost, because you can have the greatest life coaching skills or the greatest coaching methodology, but if your life is unattractive and unappealing to people because of the lack of results that you've got, then no one's going to come to you or take you seriously, even if they do. Now that might sound really hard, but a coaching methodology isn't going to cut it by itself. There's some lessons that you must have learned through the School of Hard Knocks. This is what will give other people trust in you, and it's what will allow other people to view you as credible in their eyes. All right, that you've actually overcome something for yourself. Now, there's a pretty good chance that you have already overcome something, but the chances that you appreciate the extent of what you've overcome might be minimal right now. Have I mentioned yet, I want to propose life coaching as a very, very practical methodology, not as an academic one, all right, not as a rigid, stuffy one, not as a medical process, as a very, very practical methodology. Any methodology that doesn't equip people to grow, mature, take greater responsibility for themselves and progress in life is not life coaching. So the first stage has got to be to build and foster trust. Without trust, there's no relationship. Once we have trust in place, then we've got to reach a coaching agreement. A coaching agreement is just simply the purpose of life coaching. It's the purpose for coaching. So this has to center around a goal, or a mission, or a vision, or an objective, or a desired outcome. It has to revolve around an ideal life condition. Otherwise, what you'll end up potentially getting drawn into, talking about people's feelings and people's woes and people's problems, and that is not coaching. Right? It's something else significantly less empowered. Only once we have reached a coaching agreement about what it is that your coachee wants to achieve, or what they want to deliver upon, or what they want to do, can you then begin to explore identifying action steps. Right? If your coachee is in a hole, well, they're going to have to take some action steps to get out of that hole. You can't take action steps for people, and you can't fix people's woes. Right? All people have problems in life, but until problems have owners, then problems remain unsolved. Now, your responsibility is to brainstorm and help people consider what possible solutions they might choose to take, or what courses of action they could pursue, but it's certainly not to solve people's problems for them. All right, I've attended various coaching trainings in the past where the alternative was proposed as true, but it can't be. All right, there's a principle in life, and this is that personal responsibility breeds personal empowerment. And what I mean by this is that the more responsibility that you take for your life, the more empowered you'll become. And in exactly the same way, the more responsibility that your coachees take for their lives, the more empowered they will become. So what you'll find in some forms of helping relationship, a coachee or a person down a hole might come to a professional helper, all right, for help to get out their problems. And what the professional helper might do, again in some contexts, is proclaim to be the guru or the person who has all the answers or the expert on life or something like this. And then what you end up seeing get forged is a dependency-based relationship, where one person is perceived as being up on some sort of pedestal and the other person's down here. So then the coachee ends up looking to the coach for the answers and for the solutions, and remains completely disempowered because they have not worked through the process that they must take for themselves in order to transition out of their current life conditions and progress towards their ideal conditions. All right, listen, when I started teaching life coaching 8 years ago, 9 years ago, 10 years ago, whenever it was, I wasn't communicating in this way right now. So I'm only really communicating in this way in response to a number of the questions that have been asked over the years. You know, but surely life coaching should involve helping people feel better about themselves. No, it shouldn't. That's not coaching. It's not therapy. Life coaching is about helping people to establish what they want to achieve and then identifying the action steps that they need to take. Because until these action steps have been identified and documented, then no action steps can be delivered upon or taken. And if action steps aren't delivered upon or taken, then progress isn't made. And if progress isn't made, then no fulfillment or satisfaction or contentment can be found. Right, think about your own life. The only times in your life I guarantee that you've experienced contentment, satisfaction or fulfillment will have been those occasions when you have identified yourself as having moved forward in some way. In your relationships, perhaps financially, you've maybe moved home from a smaller home into a bigger home. You can see that your life's moving forward. Now don't get me wrong, sometimes it's hard to appreciate the extent that our own lives are moving forward because we are living them all of the time. It's sometimes easier to see another person and how their life is moving forward, sometimes more so than our own. All right? You're taking action steps to move your life forward by becoming more established or established in life coaching, which is a very, very in-demand profession today, by the way. So you might as well become an expert one, not a bog standard one, become expert. Because unless you're able to help people generate their desired results, your value is nil. Now, this is a principle I learned quite a number of years ago. I've got quite a lot of experience in coaching and teaching, and I've built many businesses over the years as well. And I learned this principle through working with freelancers. All right. Now, me myself, I've also been a freelancer over the years. When I first started coaching, I had a price tag against my time. But it was only really when I became an employer of freelancers that I learned it doesn't matter what price tag a freelancer places on their time. All right. The only thing that matters is the value that is received from the freelancer. Right? Which means that, say for example, you were at some point in the future to become a professional life coach who perhaps sells their time to coaches or to clients. Maybe you might end up going working with executive clients, or you might become a business coach or something. It's all life coaching because life involves doing business. Every single part of life involves life. All right, so this methodology is relevant to all areas and all aspects of life. But unless you're actually you have a methodology that enables people to take the action steps that they need to take to generate the results that they need to generate, your value is nil. You're not worth anything to these people at all, which means they might come for 1 or 2 sessions, but eventually they'll see that they're getting nothing and they'll stop coming back. So it's not about you having the answers. It's about you understanding the methodology. All right, it's about you getting your own mind right, but you understanding what the extent of your responsibility actually is. Think about how it is that you might raise a child. All right, would you want to do everything for your child forever? Right, I know a lovely couple who have a 42-year-old son. All right, he's just a year or so younger than me. Now, this guy has been in a job, the same job since he left school. Every Friday, he brings around his laundry for his mum to do. Once a week, his mum goes round to his house and cleans his house for him. She cooks meals and takes meals round, takes kind of 7 meals round for him. The guy's 42. He's single. He's grossly overweight. I don't see these things to tear the guy down. I actually say all these things to suggest that he's actually not being served by his parents, right? The guy is in a complete codependent relationship with his parents. His parents need their son to be reliant on them, and he is reliant on his parents. This is the complete opposite of what a coaching relationship must be. You wouldn't want your child to become completely reliant on you. Why? Because the day that you die, if they are not empowered and taking responsibility for their own life, then you've set them up for complete failure. In exactly the same way, working with coaches or working with clients, the goal is never to take any responsibility for their life. It's always to refer the responsibility back. I've got a problem. Cool. Let's define the problem first and foremost. A problem shared is a problem halved. Now, what are you going to do about it? What's the first step you need to take? What's the second step you need to take? Now, again, this might sound overly simplistic, and it is, because you've still got to deal with the human mind, and sometimes dependencies do get forged, all right? But your responsibility is to manage you in the coaching relationship and never allow any form of unhealthy dependency to get forged to begin with, all right? Your role is kind of like holding up a mirror that just allows them to see everything that's coming your way. Sometimes that's the greatest wake-up call that people can have in life. So we evaluate the outcomes that get generated at the end of the coaching relationship, but we can only do this if outcomes are actually generated, which can only happen if action steps are taken, not by you, by them, which can only happen if action steps have first and foremost been identified, which can only happen if the person who's stuck in the hole sets or puts in place a vision or a plan or has a goal to actually get out of the hole. Your purpose is not to help them out the hole, it's to help them help themselves get out of the hole with the right strategy, in the right direction. Perhaps avoid a few unnecessary pitfalls along the way. Does this make sense? I really wanted just to set the context for coaching first and foremost, because we could have looked at communication skills and I could have presented coaching models, but first and foremost I really needed to take some time to help you understand the degree of your responsibility, which is to facilitate other people in growing and changing. Your role is not to change people and it's not to transform people. You are not transformative. You are not the change agent. You are the agent who helps people change for themselves. You with me? I'm hoping that we're clear, because if we are clear, we've got the foundations laid and we can now start building.